to this, although we're still right in the thick of things with the pandemic. But nice to have everybody here, as well as some 40 odd people on our webinar. Although we're still going to begin with some introductory readings on the Machzor you can find on page 2. Can't hear very well? You can't hear well? I will do that. There we go. So let's start with page 2, the top of the page, words of welcome. Shalom, shalom to those who are far off. Shalom to those who are near, says Adonai. Mighty God, who listens to the poor and hears their prayer, how long will you be distant and hidden from me? Night and day I turn, calling out with a true heart, always thanking you for your kindness so great. My sovereign, my hope is in you. My heart trusts in you, as a dreamer of dreams depends on an interpreter. This I ask, hear my prayer. This I seek, not more, not less. Throughout our holidays, we ask that God hears and receives our prayers. So we start those prayers with Mariv, the evening service, to welcome in the holiday. And those prayers are very similar to our weekday prayers, but with slight changes for the liturgy of Rosh Hashana. We start on page 5 as we rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Umaver yom, umevi laila, umavdil ben yom ben laila, Adonai tzvot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch elam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai, hamariv aravim, avat olam be'yisrael. Ve'avatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'avata et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha v'lechtecha v'derech ובשוכבך ובקומך Ukshartam leot al yadecha, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, ונתתי בזרעתם לכל שוספת בנצחך ונתתי הישם לכם חסד Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 8. Umalchuta ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe Miriam Bnei Yisrael L'chanu shira B'simcha rabba v'amru chulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Norati Lod Osef Elem Malchutecha Reuvanecha Bukeyam Lifnei Moshe Zeli Anu V'amru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed V'nemar Kifad Adonai Yaakov Ugalam Yad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. On page 9, Hashkivenu together in the English, in the main part of the page. Allow us, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you are the sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch atah Adonai hapore sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'Yerushalayim. We're about to enter into the Amidah, first on page 10 with an introductory line, the Chatzi Kaddish, and then the private Amidah. Before we do, just a reflection on prayer itself. God does not need my praise, but I need to offer it. God has no need of my acclamations, but I need to learn the lesson of gratitude. God does not need my presence, but I cannot live without God's presence. God does not need my attention, but attentiveness teaches me wonder. God does not need my song, but songs lift my heart and bring healing to my soul. In your presence, Adonai, I am present, and in your presence I can find my true self. As we enter into the Amidah, we take 3 steps backwards and 3 forwards, entering into the presence of the divine to prepare for our meditations and to be able to express gratitude, appreciation, wonder, and praise. Page 10, we rise. Tiku v'chodesh shofar v'kesel yom chagenu chichok l'Yisrael mishpado Yaakov Yitkadav Shemei Rabbah V'amad yivrachute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayedecho b'ez Yisrael v'agla zman kariv v'meru amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'amei Yitbarach v'yishtabach Yitbar v'shema v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shemei dekudesha b'rechu le'la le'la mikol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'meru amen. We recite the Amidah privately, beginning on page 11 through page 17. Ratonim refi vegyon libi lefanecha. Ratonim refi vegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri v'goali. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri v'goali. You be seated. Turn back to page 16. Let's look down at the bottom of the page. We don't do a Chazarat Hashatz, we don't do a leader's recitation of the Amidah at Mariv, but I figured we'd add in the last couple lines, setting the tone of what we are looking at this holiday. V'sefer chayim v'racha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amecha Beit Yisrael, l'chaim tovim, u'leshalom. Page 19. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba be'yama divrachute ve'yamlech malchute v'chayachon ve'yamechon v'chayedecho be'Yisrael ba'ala u'bizman kari ve'imeru amen Yeshmei rabba mevorach Le'olam u'me'almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach V'yitpar v'yitromam V'yitnaseh v'yitadar V'yitaleh v'yitalel Shemei dekudeshat Richu Leila leila mikol bechata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'ama v'imeru amen Titkabel teloton Uvod dechol Yisrael Kadam avon divishmaya V'yimeru amen Yesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru amen Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru amen. This day of Rosh Hashana is known by the rabbis as the beginning of creation. There's a question, though, as to whether it's the first day or whether it's the sixth day. It's the start of creation, like Vayihi Or, let there be light, or whether it's the creation of humanity. I like to think of the first day of Rosh Hashanah as Vayihi Or, and then while it's not 6 days later, tomorrow, right, would be the sixth day. So if we look on page 20, we'll share some thoughts about creation. First, I'll chant the beginning part of Breshit. Breshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ve'haaretz hayta tov avohu ve'choshech al panei tehom ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al panei hamayim vayomer Elohim yeh or vayehi or vayar Elohim et haor ki tov v'yavdel Elohim ben haor u'ben hachoshech vayikra Elohim laor yom v'lachoshech kara layla vayir vayivoker yom echad. Let's join together the piyut titled Creation. Who established the highest heights? Who propelled the sphere's rays? Who is as great as the divine? Who can describe the most sublime? Even silence is your praise. Who spoke with word and day came to be? Who glanced and in that gaze created land? Who propelled the waves and set limits to the seas? Who raised up mountains and formed the valleys? Who exactly measured the distance the world spanned? Even silence is your praise. Who placed hair on human heads and caused it to grow? Who made each worm slither and move only that way? Who formed each person, each in Adam's mold? Who created species, members alike, numbers untold? Who can describe God's ways and what God has given? Who can repay? Even silence is your praise. I was noticing that there are a number of names that we have for Rosh Hashanah. Beyond Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, we also call it Yom HaZikaron, the day of remembrance. We call it Yom HaDin, the day of judgment. And we call it Yom Truah, the day of the blasts of the horn, right, of the shofar. But when we make Kiddush, which we'll do in just a moment, we talk about the day, we say, Yom HaZikaron Hazeh, Yom Truah Mikre Kodesh, right? The day of Zikaron, the day of remembrance, and the day of Truah, the day of the bless. But we don't mention Yom HaDin. We don't mention it in Kiddush as the day of judgment. And I thought that to be a little bit peculiar. There's other holidays, I'll be forthcoming, right, straight out, that there's other holidays that have multiple names, and we only use some of their names in Kiddush as well. But I don't think that it's the same where there's 3 and 1 is left out. Passover has like 4 names, and we use 2 of them. But 1 here, I think, is, its absence is something to take note of. Yom HaDin, the day of judgment. Set that aside just for a second. I always also think about how Pesach is a highly celebrated holiday, and Shavuot is not. Pesach is the day of freedom, and Shavuot is the day of obligation, of law. Right? Similarly, in our own country, we celebrate July 4th, Independence Day, but have no idea when Constitution Day is. Right? We don't celebrate law. We don't celebrate obligation. Right? We want to just think about our freedoms. And I think similarly today, right, when we are starting Yom HaDin, we at times set it aside because it's scary, because it's a little bit frightening. If we follow the liturgy, right, especially like Unatana Tokef, right, that it's at this point that God's decreeing, God's deciding who shall live and who shall die. Right? And whether we look at that theology and that liturgy directly, right, or whether we think about it metaphorically, right, and we think about it as what will our lives be like in this year to come, and that we, some rabbis say, that we take the pen and we inscribe ourselves into the book, whichever book. We have that opportunity. So whether it's God making the decision or whether it's ourselves critically looking at our actions, critically looking at our behaviors, critically looking at the things that we could have done better, it's a scary time. It's a time that we'd rather push off. We'd rather not think about judgment of Din. We ask God instead to be merciful, Rachamim. But Din has its place, right, in this event, in this holiday as well. So we can each just take a few moments, even though we're going to celebrate Yom HaZikaron, Day of Remembrance, and we'll celebrate Yom Truah and Kiddush in just a second, to also think about how Yom HaDin plays into the next 48 hours. Rise for Kiddush. It's a little bit risky bringing red wine close to a white tablecloth, so I'll stand back a little bit. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, Asher bachar banu mikol am, Ramani kol hashon, v'kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'titen lanu Adonai be'ava, et yom hazikaron hazeh, Yom Truah, Mikra Kodesh, Zecher L'tziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'dvarcha emet v'kayam layad, Baruch atah Adonai, Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael, Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael, Melech HaKol Haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael, B'yom HaZikaron. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. I wear the white kittel on Pesach, too, and that's also a time where it's a bit concerning having 4 cups of wine. Page 25. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, lateit kedula liyotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adamah, Shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamanam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, she'unatei shamayim ve'yoser haaretz, Moshe v'Karel v'Shamayim imam, u'shchinatuzo, b'govei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatu b'torato, V'yadata yom be'ashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imam, ve'al haaretz mitachad ein od Vakatu b'tortecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz v'yom ahu yeh Adonai echad u'shema Shema, Shema Echad. Be seated. This first day of Tishrei, we observe the following yortzites in our congregation: Ray Axelrod, Harry Nyman, Sophie Schenker, and Jerry Wiener. Other yortzites coming up the remainder of this week: Stella Esther Emsalem, Alfred Fuchs, Ida Gulene Glass, Samuel Adam Mensch, Shirley Rosenberg, Eugene Joseph Schubert, Helen Stern, Hannah Dora Blankstein, Evelyn Robinson, Ruth Bender, Sam Goldberg, Itzhak Solomon, Jack Weissman, and Sam Wolf. Those in mourning and observing yortzeit can now rise for Kaddish Yatom on page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemed kutsha brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bin romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. On page 27, we find Psalm 27. Like how they did that? This is a psalm we've been saying since the beginning of Elul in preparation for these days and in preparation for this season of Tshuva. We continue to say it through Hoshana Rabbah near the end of Sukkot. David seven lines down from the top. Achachati meit Adonai ota avakesh. Achachati meit Adonai ota avakesh. Shifti beveit Adonai kol yemei chayai. Lachazot benoam benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Lachazot benoam benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Gitz beneni b'sugoyim ra yastirei v'sein Shira ve'azamra l'Adonai shmarana kli. Al tastir panecha mimeni al tat be'af avdecha azati ayita v'tchini al tasvein. Le'manti l'robetu v'nai be'etz chayim kavel Adonai chazak v'metzli becha v'kavel Adonai. We conclude with another mourner's Kaddish, back on page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach cherutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach leolam olmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalel shmei dekudsha brichu La'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav huya aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Tomorrow morning, our service will start at 9 o'clock, both here in the sanctuary as well as downstairs in the churner. We don't really know how many people are going to be coming tomorrow morning, but we will hopefully it'll all work itself out as we have a maximum of 200 here and 100 downstairs for the services. In the afternoon, we'll gather at 4:30 at Picnic Area 10 in Rock Creek Park for Tashlich. So please join us there. Followed by, if you'd like to bring a picnic dinner for dinner, and we'll do Mincha and Mariv as well there at Rock Creek Park. And then on Wednesday morning, we continue at 9 o'clock again here. We'll conclude with Yigdal on page 28. Yigdal Elohim chai ve'yishtabach nimtza ve'enet el metziuto echad ve'en yachid ke'yechuda ne'elam ve'gam ein sof le'achduto Ein lo demut aguf ve'ein aguf lo naroch elav kedushato kadmon lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'ein reshit le'reshito hino adon olam v'chol notzar Yoreh gedulato u'malchuto shefa nevuato netano el anshe segulato v'tifarto lo kam v'Yisrael kemoshe od navi u'mabid et emunato Torah temet natan le'amoel al neviah neman beito lo yachal Yifrael ve'lo yamir dato le'olamim le'zulato tofeh ve'yodea Setareinu mabit lesof davar bekadmato Gomel ish chesed kemifalo Noten l'rashara kerishato Yishlach leketz yamin meshichenem Liftod mechakeket Yeshuato Meitim Yechael Berav Chasto Baruch Adeyad Shem Teilato Meitim Yechael Berav Chasto Baruch Adeyad Shem Tehilato. May we and the entire house of Israel be called to mind and inscribed for life, blessing, sustenance, and peace in the book of life. Hashana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. Shana tova.